Hey, welcome to HR Famous, brought to you by Kinetics, the leading RPO recruiting firm for growth companies. Named by HRO Today as the top midsize RPO provider, Kinetics uses its unique skill-based recruiter model to deliver on RPO engagements, allowing them to customize scope to meet your unique hiring needs. If you have recruiting challenges and want to consider RPO as a solution, give Kinetics a call. Find them online at kineticshr.com. HR Famous is also brought to you by CHRO Tech, a contingent staffing firm specializing in engineering, IT, and technically related placements across multiple industries. If you're looking for technical talent or searching for a career, look no further than CHRO Tech. Find them online at chrotech.com and call them today. Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Dunn, the HR Famous podcast. We're back. Same great team. It's like it hasn't changed. We brought Don Burke in once in a while. Sometimes Tim goes on vacation, climbs like mountains and drives Jeeps and stuff like that. But it's the same team. Tim Sackett, Jessica Lee. Obviously, I'm coming to Jessica Lee first. Here's what we're going to do. Jessica Lee, 10 years from now, what's your dream HR job? Because I've got some notes on this coming up in our CHRO Move of the Week. What's your ideal HR job? 10 years.
Oh, well, I'm going to steal something that you've said before because I never want to be number one. I like number two. I want to be number two to like some big number one and like be their voice of reason.
It's too
number
late.
two work for?
No, it's too late because you're going to be the chief people officer or whatever we're calling them 10 years from now. And KD is going to slide in as your number two, just looking really to move shrapnel away from you, right?
You assume I would pass a background check and like a board of directors would accept me in that role. It's a big assumption.
The world will be a different place in 10 years. It's fine. But I'm taking bullets. I'm also killing what needs to be killed as your number two. Ideal number two, really over Tim Sackett, who also joins us on the HR Famous podcast. He's got a dry cough, a little drainage. But Tim, what's your ideal HR job 10 years from now?
Well, I've always said this, like once you take, the head of HR of the NBA, then I get to be your number two in that job. But if that doesn't happen, chief performance officer for the worst run organization in the entire world, the U.S. government. Can you imagine coming in, working for the president of the United States as a chief performance officer for the entire U.S. government? That would be amazing.
I see you as a personnel lead for the U.S. Postal System.
The director of personnel.
I think it's the HR job of the future. Okay, so HR Famous podcast. Got a couple things I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to flip it to Jessica Lee on the back half of this. First thing I want to do, Jessica, I think you're the one who sent this to me. Harvard Business Review published something about 21 HR jobs of the future. So I did a post on this a couple weeks back, really saying, do you buy it? Let me just read a couple of these titles to you, okay? And I just want you, so this is jobs, new jobs that will be available in the next 10 years. Chatbot and human facilitator, okay. Algorithm bias auditor. A work from home facilitator. Let me keep going. A virtual reality immersion counselor. I'll give you two more. A distraction prevention coach. And this is the last one I'll give you is a second act coach, which I kind of like. So, Jessica, the question here is, are these really jobs? Or are these just more so things that any of us as HR generalists could really hone up our skills to make ourselves more valuable? And most importantly, Jessica, which one of these do you choose that I need to bone up on to be your number two in 8 to 10 years? No pressure.
Well, one of the ones that you didn't mention that I am very curious about is genetic diversity officer.
Right.
That might be a space we need to lean in on. And also very fascinating is climate change response leader. So like when you start looking at the titles, like a lot of these things are in response to what's happening from a technology perspective or what's happening in the world. And I don't know that these are like jobs of the future. I think these are like skills or like understanding like trends and that you like take, basic HR skills and roles that exist, and it's like responding to what's happening around us.
Yeah,
it's amazing though when we take a look at like a group of jobs that people did like 50 years ago that are no longer around to what, so it's hard for us to predict what jobs of the future are. Where it's much better to look, obviously hindsight's 2020. So when we look back, we can say, oh my gosh, I never saw that job going away, typewriter salesman or whatever,
And I think when you think about HR jobs of the future, Tim, really what you've seen, if you go back and look 20 to 30 years ago, for the most part, what you've seen is titles have changed, right? We've tried to get away from negative perceptions about the world of HR. We've changed our titles, and certainly we've had a lot of like innovation, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know that there are this many titles. So a couple more things, Jessica. So if you have questions about genetic diversity officer, and you're kind of interested in that one, my hot take on that is that's what you and I will use when Tim submits his application to work as part of our team, wherever you're going to lead it, and he puts himself down as Native American.
Ah.
So that's the position we'll need for that. Tim's coming in. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, so then what you're getting like I do like a 23andMe, so you guys can actually,
Yes, some open like database. We got that back when.
What if I self-identify? With my Cherokee lineage.
Well, that's
you
the whole
should
point.
Do that, by the way, because you might find that you both are like long lost brothers or something.
How about all three of us do it and we'll do our results on a pod?
I know where I come from.
Yeah, we're sure.
So Tim, before we move on to CHRO Move of the Week, which title of all these do you pick for yourselves? And I'll give you guys one. Which one of these titles? Do you want me to give you one?
Yeah. Because like the chief distraction officer, come on, like we have an entire society of ADHD kids. Like now we're going to have a distraction officer. Like,
well,
what are you gonna do? Smack them in the.
Or the lower version of that, the distraction prevention coach. I honestly like two of these as real and something that you could see coming in. I think second act coach is really interesting. Mm-hmm. Like that's a reskilling thing, and I think also related to that is the gig economy manager. I think those are really interesting things in a bigger company when you think about all the reskilling that's got to happen.
Yeah, when I take a look at like what Workday has done with their internal mobility gig platform and some of those things, you definitely see that coming where you can have, whether you want to call them a gig economy manager or whatever a position, it's basically a recruiter that's going to have to manage all these gigs or some kind of a talent management staffing kind of person, right, within an organization to understand, oh gosh, this person, we have 15 million people kind of doing this stuff. Like there's definitely, I can see that coming for sure. Anything with coach though, to me is just bullshit. So I don't like whatever coach.
You're hard on the coach terminology. Well, that's why you'll ultimately be the director of personnel at the U.S. Postal Service. It's a great second act for you, Tim. All right. So 21 jobs of the future. We'll link that in the show notes. And like natural transition, it's time for our CHRO Move of the Week. Garcon, please hit the music. Okay, I love it when the game show music brings me in on CHRO Move of the Week. So today's contestant, Jessica Lee, is Jennifer Cornelius, who is the new head of organizational development / future of work at Pinterest. Pretty sexy title. Jessica, would you like that title today? Future of work, head of OD and future of work. You would you not?
I love it. I mean, future as part of the title. I dig it.
So we will make sure, if you're listening to this, go to the show notes. We will link to Jennifer Cornelius's profile. So she's been at Pinterest. We're working off LinkedIn. None of us know Jennifer, by the way. That's what makes all of this magical. She's been there 3 months. So heart of COVID, she goes in there. Shout out to her on that. And, what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about her path here. So if I look at where she's been and what she's done. First of all, she comes out of the University of California system. Shout out, Tim, University of California, Riverside, comes out of there in the year 2000.
What does it really take to lead with impact in today's ever-evolving world? Welcome to Inside the C-Suite, the podcast where influence, energy, innovation, and empathy converge. Hi, I'm Christy Honeycutt, your host. Join me as I sit down with the boldest voices in leadership, visionaries who are not just making decisions, but making a difference. In every episode, we explore the heart of leadership. How do high-performing leaders harness their energy? How do they lead with empathy without losing their edge? How do they turn disruption into innovation and pressure into purpose? You'll hear unfiltered stories of adversity, resilience, and the raw moments that shaped true influence. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence, passion, and the energetic exchange that fuels transformation. Inside the C-Suite is your invitation to lead from a deeper place with intention, connection, and courage. If you're ready to go beyond the surface and unlock what really moves leaders to action, hit subscribe and step inside. You can find us wherever you get your podcast fix. Inside the C-Suite, well, we're an energetic exchange. Let's lead with influence, live with energy, and create with empathy.
I think it might be, and that's a great mascot. But then she goes in.
Is Riverside the banana slugs? Isn't that like the lowest level of the California
retail
system?
First, district manager at something called the SAC, which sounds like what Tim Sackett would name his company, the SAC. And then she moves to Pacific Sunwear as a field training manager. And then the big brands start to come in. If you're following along with us at home, she becomes a regional HR manager, I guess roughly 5 to 6 years in at Starbucks. And then she's there for roughly 3.5, 4 years. And she makes the move to be really a senior manager, an HR generalist for Apple retail. So she goes into Apple and she's there for a while. And then she flips real quickly to chief people officer. She picks up a master's in OD from Pepperdine, gets out of there in 2017, right? Great views of the Pacific, not a bad campus. And that allows her to go into OD school. At Apple. School, by the way. And Pepperdine. Then ultimately she bounces at Pinterest. So Tim, the reason I like this is starts out banana, like shout out to the banana slugs, like pays her dues, gets involved with a great brand, a couple of great brands, Starbucks, then flips to Apple as an HR generalist, goes back to school, knocks out the master's in OD, gets an OD at Apple, and here she is managing, Tim, the future of work at Pinterest. What do you see in this profile?
Well, I mean, a couple of things. One is I always wonder, like, by the way, totally the Starbucks job is like the hardest, part of that entire job. So, I mean, that's real HR doing regional HR stuff for a Starbucks. Totally. But then once you get to Apple, I'm wondering like if there's any regrets there along the line. Because I think the Pinterest job, it says is contract, right? It's not a full-time gig.
Yep.
So I'm always nervous if somebody goes back into their career and goes, oh, why did I give up Apple? It's a rocket ship. I should have just stayed there. But I get it. You chase your titles, right? You can chase titles after you get the good brands.
Yeah, and if you look at it, Jessica, she's probably moving to a company called Sweetgreen as the chief people officer. So after 9 years, she kind of downshifts, smaller company, becomes a CPO at a smaller company, I'm sure doing interesting things. Right, Jessica?
High growth, though. So that's one of the things I thought was interesting. So, with Apple, she was on the retail side of the business because that's where she was coming from previously. And then going over to Sweetgreen, high growth, I think you'd probably call them fast casual in terms of like what it is that they do. Really, high end brand for healthy, fast casual food. And so smaller org, but I can see like opportunity to like grow tremendously. But like, COVID hits, and then what are you going to do at that point also when probably all your restaurants have shut down? And so July 2020, if that's where she, ended that gig, RIP for all the restaurants that were impacted, during this whole time period. So I think that's an interesting one. But like, I love the title of like head of OD/future of work, because I feel like this org design piece is like an area where like people have like preconceived notions of like what it means to be an organizational design professional. And so to have the angle of like thinking about and leading like future of work, especially right now, I think it's fascinating. I love it.
We started out with the 21 jobs of the future in HR, learned a lot about where Tim's going, et cetera, et cetera. And it's easy to apply this with Jennifer. Tim, true or false, you have never heard of the eating establishment Sweetgreen. Would that be correct?
Yeah, we don't have those in Michigan. Nothing healthy about eating in Michigan. It's just pizza and burgers and,
I love it. Hey, the other thing I love, so Tim pointed out that she's in this role at Pinterest from a contract perspective. I think one of the interesting things there is I would expect, Jessica, that she probably got a chance to call her own shots in terms of, she's doing OD work for Pinterest. She probably added the future of work tag to her LinkedIn profile, which I think is genius because Pinterest is a great brand. And she just picked up the master's in OD. Clearly, that's what she wants to do. And even though we call this CHRO Move of the Week whenever we do it, we're really talking about interesting people doing interesting things in the world of HR. I love she grabbed that space, Jessica, and called it future of work.
Yeah, I mean, that is an advantage of being your own boss and kind of setting your own terms. I have to now print out this HBR article to figure out what am I going to incorporate.
Wasn't the future of work, wasn't that Lars Schmidt like his third podcast or fifth podcast? Like he changes the name of his podcast like every season. So I think that was one of those.
So shout out to Lars. What's the podcast name now?
I have no idea.
It might be Future of HR.
Okay.
That was like so 2019 for Lars. Come on.
Oh, is it when he had I can't keep up between podcast names and his facial hair situation. I can't keep up.
I know.
I like anybody that leaves the gray in. I'm a fan. Authentic, legit. I just like it because, of course, I have gray. All right. Any closing thoughts, Tim, on Jennifer Cornelius? We like the background. We like the move. Good luck to her at Pinterest, doing what she's doing.
Yeah,
I'm sure she's going to do great things in the future. All right. So next up, Jessica, I'm going to flip it to you. Let's talk about the power of being a parent, working from home when your kids are learning from their school 100% virtual. Like set us up and take us through it.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think in previous episodes, we have talked about benefits to offer to parents, working parents who are trying to deal with virtual school at the same time. And I think I am the first to admit, like I have crapped on everyone's quote unquote benefits or offerings because I'm like, what are those? Like those aren't benefits. And then we had, was it Salesforce school? Now I can't remember. People who are saying 6 weeks of additional time off for parents who are dealing with virtual school. And I'm like, A for effort. I haven't liked any of the benefits, but I'm just telling you, here I am, week 2 of virtual school with a kindergartner, and that's just one of 2 children in virtual school. And I'm just here to tell you, like, this is real. So I'm going to walk you through some of the things that we are dealing with in my house, as well as things that my team is dealing with. And I just, I think that we are going to have to really figure out how to get creative to adjust with all of this stuff because it is no joke. So issue number 1 I want to talk about. When the kids have virtual school, and I am now experiencing, they are sucking up all the bandwidth in this house. So like my video calls, webcasts. Like I am like, the connection is dropping. I'm gonna have to get on a hotspot. Bobby J is trying to like increase our internet speed. And we're like having to figure out how do I hardwire in with a Thunderbolt connection, which I don't even know how to do. We're getting extra things. So like that $250 that Salesforce was giving people, like, I don't know if that's enough for a mesh thing, additional routers, like better Wi-Fi, like it's crazy. Like dealing with this bandwidth thing is like no joke, but you, with kids in college too, or high school or whatever, like you guys are dealing with that too, right?
Yeah, no, I was actually on with Singapore at 8 o'clock the other night. And even then I couldn't get enough bandwidth in my house between the school stuff, the gaming stuff, the Netflix stuff. Like, now I have 3 other people in the house doing stuff. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just, there's not enough bandwidth to have all that video stuff going on nonstop.
It's crazy. So here's the thing that I am looking for is like a call to action or a plea for all of us, like humanity. Like we have to figure out right now how to give each other some grace when people's videos drop, when their connection drops and they have to like fall off the Teams call or their camera isn't working. Like there is just, I don't know that there's enough bandwidth in this world to accommodate all of us doing Zoom class, Zoom calls, video calls, all of the above. And like, I think I've probably been guilty of it myself where I've been like, oh gosh, that person's having connectivity issues again. But like, man, now being in virtual schooling, I have been humbled by the fact that like, this is not easy and we got to give each other some grace.
I think like one of the best things somebody can do, and I've tried to do this and sometimes I'm more successful than others. If you have if you have bandwidth issues, it's always better to acknowledge that up front and to go audio only in a thing like a Zoom call. So I like that as a strategy.
Yeah.
Like Jessica, do you, and I'm not talking at Marriott necessarily, but with what you read and what you try and keep up on, the friends you talk to in the DC area, are you concerned that there's not enough grace for parents in your situation? It's different. It's different to have kids in high school. I've got one of those at home. And, we have one in college that was home. They don't require like the same upkeep.
Yeah.
Do you think there's not enough grace for people with young kids who are trying to manage all this?
So I don't know that there's not enough grace on the other end of people who are seeing like parents of young children trying to figure stuff out. I think what I observe even for myself and for like my team is that when you're in the hot seat of like, I'm in front of a video call or I'm in a meeting and then, oh my gosh, something's happening with my kids and their Zoom call, like you see the panic and the stress that parents are going through and feeling in trying to manage whatever is happening with kids while also trying to manage work. And I think it's just this level of anxiety that I know parents are dealing with, that I see that they're dealing with, where they're becoming like uber apologetic, like so like frustrated about how it's going to make them look, or, worried about the frustration that others may have with them, and less about like the grace of like, what do we give the other person? And it's just like, I think the level of stress that people are putting on themselves. And like, if I have to hear people apologize one more time, and I'm sure I do it myself because I just tend to say I'm sorry all the time. Like a lot of women, like they are having to apologize or feeling like they have to apologize for things that, at this point, we should just stop apologizing to each other. And like when kids are popping into a camera, like we're not going to apologize for that anymore, because that is just the reality of what we're dealing with. But just like, I had to tell you guys the story of like what one person on my team is dealing with to paint the story of what like parents everywhere are dealing with. So one of my team members, she's got 2 kids. One is 9. The 9-year-old needs to be close enough, but like far enough to be able to do her Zooming during the day near mom. So girlfriend set up a co-working agreement with her mom and said, here's the rules of how we're going to work nearby each other and respect each other's space. So love how proactive her daughter is in trying to create boundaries, rules.
Jay, that only happens with a daughter to mom. Like mom and son, like the son be like, yeah, we're going to have a co-working agreement. In minute 1, that agreement's broken.
Well, funny enough, Tim, rule number 9 on the co-working agreement is no boys allowed in the co-working space. So dad and the brother, they're like, stay out of our space. It's our space to work. Yeah. But so like this same team member of mine, and she knows I'm talking and sharing about these things because like I think it's so interesting and fascinating. Like as an example, some of the things parents are having to deal with, her daughter downloads a presentation that the teacher asked them to, download and start, working with during a Zoom call, and had links embedded in it. The daughter clicks on the links and the links start popping out to inappropriate websites that somehow were mistakenly, accidentally, unknowingly embedded in this presentation by a teacher. And, if you were using a school issued laptop or device, the links probably wouldn't have worked, but the child happened to be using a home-based laptop that didn't have all the same protections in it. And so had all these crazy like websites popping up. And so like mom is having to like take a pause from a call, deal with something. She puts herself on a mute. I see her run away and is trying to deal with this. And it's just, like, it is so crazy to me that like this is what moms and dads around the world are having to deal with virtual school. It's nuts. Can you imagine like that happening during the workday near you?
Well, JLee, I think like, I'd sent you the New York Times article on parents, got more time off. Now the backlash is starting, and so to me, I'm always like, the reality is we as parents, because all three of us are parents and we know we have a lot of parents that are, that are listeners. If you're a non-parent, you're sort of like, hey, you freaking signed up for this, man. Like, buck up. Like, hey, yeah, it's a pandemic, but too bad. It is what it is. And I don't want to hear about it because you're getting all these breaks and we're getting nothing besides extra work thrown on us because you guys can't handle your shit. And again, that's not me because I see what what parents have to go through, what we have to go through. But I do think it's like a real issue that is coming up in our workplaces more and more.
Yeah. And I don't know what the answers are. That's the thing. Like, I've crapped on it. Like, oh, these aren't real benefits, but I truly don't know, like separate from providing each other, grace and room, but I don't know what the answers are, like how you solve for this. It's insane.
Jessica, question for you. What's one hack in your first couple of weeks that has given you at least the appearance in your mind of more control over the situation?
Locking the door when I really am busy.
It's funny. I saw you do that earlier. I saw you do that in the background earlier. But that's a good one, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, so like small hack is that like I had to like bite the bullet and get the wireless earbuds because like I can't be plugging in to do calls. Like I need to be able to move around to go troubleshoot if Wi-Fi is down, a password is lost, or even like making lunch in the middle of the day. And so like having wireless earbuds has been actually a godsend so that I can be mobile. But then the other thing related to that is maybe not a hack, but just something I am doing. Like you're going to see me taking calls in the kitchen and I'm going to be making some pasta for lunch, or you're going to see me standing in front of the refrigerator cutting up some fruit because like there is no choice that I have but to do those things. And so I'm giving myself the space to do it and set an example for everyone around me to know that like, if as a leader, I'm going to do these things in front of you, like I'm giving everyone else the permission to do it as well. So combo of like behaviors and technology, but I don't know. I haven't figured this stuff out. That's the only hack I have for you is wireless earbuds. And that's sad.
Pretty good hack.
A couple from our house that we've had to deal with. And one is my wife's found that having like I think you said, like JLee, your teammate had like a specific place, like, hey, you're going to do your work here. It's not going to just be randomly all over the house and every day is going to change has helped, kind of keep stuff a little bit less crazy in the house. But then also two of the things, one is if somebody has an important like meeting, like or Zoom, like whether it's the kid or a parent, trying to figure out the timing of it to see everyone's schedule. So now we're having to do like an in-house schedule for Wi-Fi. And so that's one. And then the other one was like a red, yellow, green thing where like, if you can't be disturbed, like you put a red kind of like piece of paper on the door, yellow, like if it's just important, green, if you're fine.
Yeah, I've seen that. I love like the red, yellow, green system. And I've seen like people putting signs on their doors so that, kids know whether you can come in or not and kind of what the situation is. And the other thing is someone actually sent me a link to like a Google router system where you can put all the devices on the router and you can turn people's access on and off so that they can't be on the Wi-Fi.
Nice.
If you've got a really important meeting, but it's like, it's crazy. God bless Bobby J, but like he's trying to figure out how to like hardwire me in and had like a 30-foot like plug to go from the wall or the router over to my computer. And he's like, you want to test this out to see if it reaches if you need it? And I'm like, no, I don't want to test out this 30-foot like wire that you need to plug into. I'm like, just up the bandwidth or we need to come up with some solutions. So I just say this all to say, like, it is stressful. And like, I like these little hacks and I think we can probably help each other become more productive and, effective with working at home. But like the struggle is real, is all I really wanted to vent and complain about. And like, I know I don't even have it that hard because like, we've got two parents at home and we're like two parents being me and Bobby, and we actually have someone who's helping us, but like the struggle is real and God bless parents who are trying to figure this out.
Do you think that like when all of this, because we've heard so much about, work at home is here to stay and remote work and all this. I just have a feeling like it's people are desperate to get back to the office when they can.
I think that people are desperate, but I know a lot of people who are still concerned about health and safety. And it's hard to really weigh out pros and cons of being desperate to go back to work or desperate to get the kids out of the house.
And I'm meaning probably after vaccine, right? Like people, and again, a lot of the big brands are out there like, oh, we're not having anybody come back until summer of 2021, or like Twitter goes, you can work at home forever. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's not going to work.
No, I think pendulum is going to swing way the other direction. And we're just going to keep seeing the pendulum moving back and forth on this one from, a few years to the next. But man, we're going to keep talking about this because it is getting better day by day, but like, who knows what the next thing is that we're going to have to deal with and figure out how to navigate. So hats off to all the parents out there trying to make it through virtual schooling. Thank you to my non-child having colleagues who are showing grace and courtesy and, patience as we all figure out the new norm with all of this, but stuff is tough. So we're going to leave it on that depressing note. I hope it'll get better though. But for the HR Famous gang, I am Jessica Lee. We're going to call it a day and we are going to see you next week. So for Chris Dunn, Tim Sackett, and myself, we are out.